Now I messed up my floor again, but all the tiles are removed. Looking good. Yeah, looks very over 20 years old, even the shaded greenish tape stuff that's behind there. And I did have all that clean. That took just over half an hour to get rid of all those tiles by hand. Just with a chisel and a hammer. Knocking them all out. So, yeah, another stage of the shower corner. Now time to clean up all the rubbish. Okay, after a much needed clean, I got rid of all that stuff. Still kept the tape on the drain pipe, but I made sure that all the tile, especially the big ones and all that, all the pieces were removed around the plumbing. So you don't want any pressure or anything that could harm your plumbing. You don't want any extra leaks. Now, just like car stuff, when you fix something, sometimes you can reveal other stuff like this. So I knew there was a slight leak in the shower, but not to the point where it's wetting the timber behind the plaster. So there they can start rotting your wood. So that definitely needs a new gasket, and that does. It's a wonder they don't make them so they're just slightly ajar of the actual wall, so if it ever does get drips, it only drips on the wall, not behind the wall. So just be mindful of leaking taps. Don't let them go for a long time. You don't want rotted timber behind your wet areas. So there's, again, all the tiles gone, and a nice clean working area again. Now what I'm going to do, there's the actual base, the porcelain base. I'm going to paint that up as well, because that's a used one, but I got it very cheap. Why not use stuff if it's still good? So that's what I do. So I'm going to just place that now over it, and because it should sit behind the actual plaster a bit, it might actually fit where the other one did fit. So I'm going to do that now, show you guys. These are all going to be painted. Got a nice white bath, but all this needs just a bit of a touch up, so it just looks a bit more modern and new. Alright, so I'll get that base, stick it there, and just see where that drain part comes out. So just bear with me for a sec. Okay, we do have good news. With that in there, that is looking right over the plumbing pipe, so good news. It's slightly sitting up a little bit because it's got, I'll show you in a second, a section of like a thickening thing on the bottom of it. Let's see if I can lift this up with my phone. It's got that lumpy bit. So I've shaped it a little bit, but I think maybe slight concrete mod on that side may fix it. So I'll just keep on working on this for a second. Okay, so I've just made everything nice and clean, and just sitting the base there now, just packing up the tissues in case any bugs come. It's probably going to be bugs, but they should have some noggins in the side anyway, but all good. That's done for what I want to do today. Wow, what a job. So I most likely replace the plasters. That seems to be like a little bit of mold behind in some of the areas, like there, but even from how it's ripped into the plaster a fair bit, I think it's worth putting some new plaster in there for the new, well, they are new tiles, so for the new tiles to go onto, and yeah, change the look of the shower area a bit more. So that's done for today, and it's Sunday, so worked on this for maybe 3-4 hours, give or take, or maybe less, but got there in the end. So got to work out how I'm gonna, because it's not exactly level. So whether that needs like some sort of compound underneath it to glue onto, or another concrete type style mortar sort of base. But step by step, and learn as we go, and yeah, not a bad result so far. Happy with what's been done within 2 days, so getting there. This is part 2. I mixed up a slurry of 2 parts sand to 1 part cement. Now it was only a little bit low in that side, so I put a bit more in that corner. I got a pipe, because this is the original one that had like a screw up section that would go onto the here and then to the lower part. So I just got a single pipe that had 1 screw end and one that you could cut off, which is the cut off section coming out. That's the only way I could see doing this without getting a whole new base. That's the only, so I pretty much did the screw on section down below onto the original pipe, which then fed up to this one. But obviously this one had the screw in section and just the cut off section, so you could mod it more or less. So, hence saying that, I then very awkwardly put it in, because it went in a little bit further to the studs. You can see I've ripped all that around there and fed it through. So I've ordered on Amazon a internal PVC cutter. So this is the first day it's been curing, and it's really, I mean, it's already solid, and it's supposed to cure for 7 days. So 7 days it's going to be sitting there curing, or rather at maximum time that you can do it, or at least minimum time, should I say, minimum 7 days. So I'll leave it for the full 7 days, because you know, over years you stand on it 100 times, so you want to give it as much curing time as possible. Next, so once I get those parts, after around the 7 days, I'm going to cut that pipe internally and just leave it probably about that much above, because it's got a slight gap around the very edge. It's hard to see. It's got a slight gap around the edge, so I'm going to get a waterproof epoxy hardener to go around the very edge, and then it should never leak on the side of it. And then you just put the drain cover on, which I can use from the original that was on there. So next, what I'm going to do is rip off all this plaster. I'm going to put new stuff in and new waterproofing. I saw, yeah, like I showed on the last video, there's some, just look at it, looks a little bit mouldy, but you know, after 20 years it needs, I reckon it needs a nice new start, new tiles, new grout, new mix to or the mortar mix to then put the tiles on to bind it onto the wall. But I do each stage, just show what I'm doing, and I might get a bit wider head shower head up there. These definitely need at least the gaskets or sealers inside of them replaced, especially that one. That one's the worst. And I'm also going to get one of those inserts where they go, you can get them to sit into the wall, and then you just more or less mod them in, and they can hold the soap and shampoos and all that sort of stuff. I think they're also a good idea to have inserts like that, because when you see these soap holders that are pretty much under the water and they splash in that, I reckon that's a big reason why your hand soap can diminish a lot quicker or not last as long, because if you get constant sort of water on you every day, you're gonna be a lot more soft, and it's gonna run just even in ways you're not really physically seeing it in eye on the day. But I think soap diminishes quick when it has running water over it. So I think the insert of a soap section and shampoo section, so it's into the wall and it's covered up the top by its roof, will be a good addition to this. So today, a day after putting in that, and that was heavy because that's porcelain. They don't really do so much porcelain anymore, so that was an achievement in itself, because the heaviest side was in the quarters where you can't really, it's hard to hold. And then when you got your slurry of cement underneath, you try not to put your feet in it. So that's curing at the moment. There's nothing real huge that it was worth videoing. All I was doing is just throwing some slurry on top and then placing it like a massive, I looked at it like a massive square tile. So you do your stuff behind your tile and you place your tile. That's all I was doing. And then trying to line up that to go through. So I pretty much held the porcelain base a little bit with my knees and my hand. I need two hands. And then I sort of like pulled the pipe just a little bit for where it could go, and then pulled it into the hole and then just tilted it down and slid down it. So no breaks in the pipe, which is good. And so that's where we're at. So I want to start taking this plaster off, ripping it bit by bit to get it out. Okay, got one wall all done. That took me about 15-20 minutes, and mostly by hand. I mean, I got one of these are brilliant, like King Chrome. They cut plaster. That started me off, but most of it I could rip it off, but I will have to get all these nails out. So I'm thinking, like, that's, don't know if that means anything, but the pipe looks very dark on just in there to what it does there. So I'm thinking maybe it's possible to put a single swivel hot and cold water rather than two singles. One thing, it would eliminate how many of these you have to change if they ever go, instead of having two. And the other thing, what was I going to say? And of course, it's going to be less on doing the tiling and less cutouts just on a single one rather than two openings. So yeah, somehow, obviously they must just link it somehow there and then put it onto your single tap. So that's one side of the wall done. I actually didn't think I'd get into this as quick as what I have, but I got so many projects at the moment, so just want to try and get what I can done when I can do it. Busy world out there, busy lives. So that's all the plaster from just that one side. And I've put it on there with a bit of a cover. Gives a bit of weight on the base while it's curing as well. So it doesn't hurt that to do that as well. So anyway.